Hope you are having good day. This is Jagadish Kumariam, Assistant Professor, Department of Textile Technology and Chemical Engineering. Welcome to the lecture series on Apparel Costing and Export Documentation, Unit 2, Class 3. In this class, we are going to discuss about the cost of fabric production. That is specifically on knitting cost will be much emphasized in this class, and weaving cost will be done in the next class. Okay. So knitting is a process where the yarn will be interlooped or intralooped and forms the fabric structure. Knitting is very popular because of its comfort, flexibility, and that is the reason many times we find knitted fabrics next to the skin. So very popular knitted fabrics are like t-shirts, undergarments, okay. Sometimes some of the pullovers, polo t-shirts, and we can find lot of knitted garments, especially in the range of sportswear. So knitted goods are very popular and it cannot be avoided. Okay. And the cost of knitting is comparatively separate process if you consider the weaving process. So here what happens? The knitting rate will come into the picture. Anyhow, we will see in detail about the knitting cost. Okay. So in the earlier class, we understood that how to calculate the yarn requirement for a very specific product. That may be either woven fabric or knitted fabric. How to calculate the yarn rate. So in order to consider the knitting or weaving cost, the calculation must be with the following. These are some of the factors. Okay. How many number of machines are being used? What are the number of shifts per day? And the production capacity of the plant or individual machines. Okay. And what is the yarn quality which is being used? What is the waste percentage? And the number of operators and helpers which are there. So that again depend upon what kind of technology you are using. And apart from that, the operator wages and all other expenditures like overheads. All these things comes under the calculation of a process cost. Okay. Earlier we discussed something like a job order costing. As like in order to perform a specific job, what are the costs which are going to be incurred? In the same way, we are going to discuss the mechanism or calculation of knitting or weaving cost. Okay. So we need to find out the total number of machines, how many number of machines which are using, and what is the productivity, how many shifts are there. Yeah. So as you know, many of the textile industries works throughout the clock. That means 24 hours a day. But it is not mandatory. Okay. But in order to achieve the maximum efficiencies and to utilize the machinery maximum, means we will be using throughout the clock 24 hours a day. Yeah. Spinning 24 hours a day. Weaving, knitting 24 hours a day. But when it comes to the garments, it is not encouraged to work 24 hours a day. Why? Because the human intervention, the human means the persons, the people who needs to work on it should have proper attention and all. So midnights and all, it may not be so good. So either they will go for one shift or two shifts in case of apparel industries. But in terms of spinning and weaving, what will happen? They will work throughout 24 hours a day. So while taking the cost into consideration, we need to consider how many shifts it is working, whether it is one shift per day or 3 shifts per day, isn't it? And even sometimes some of the countries like Egyptian countries like Sudan and means some of the countries, what they'll do, they'll even have 12-hour shifts. Okay. So only 2 shifts will be there in a day. One is 12 hours, another one is 12 hours. Okay. So those kind of things are also there. So depending upon what kind of system you are following, and accordingly the costing need to be calculated. But in India, hardly we will go with 8.5 and 7 hour shifts, or 8 hour shifts. Okay, in a day of 24 hours, the day shift is 8.5 hours, then the night shift is 8.5 hours, and midnight shift is 7 hours, something like that, and it will be done. Again, it depends upon the locality, what kind of product you are making, and what are the local laws. All these things matters. Similarly, the production capacity of the plant per individual machine basis. Say if our production capacity is 500 kg per day. Okay, so we should have minimum of 200 kg as a minimum order quantity. Why? Because at least it should run for a couple of shifts. Okay, so order quantities are dependent upon the production capacities, isn't it? But in case of looms and all, so say it should run for 3 to 5 days continuously for a single sort. Okay, then only the good efficiencies will be taken. The entire beam, what is the beam length? Similarly, the yarn quality which is being used. If the yarn quality is less, so obviously what will happen? The efficiencies which are going to be created are going to be less. Okay, so if the better the yarn quality, obviously the productivity will be more. The waste percentages. Generally, the kind of wastes in each process will be accounts for 3 to 5%. Okay. Again, it will vary between the kind of processes and all. Okay. Some process maybe even only 1% waste also will be there. So generally, in case of knitting and all, 3 to 5% waste is quite normal. So again, the number of operators and helpers which are required. Okay. Accordingly, also the cost of knitting or the process of weaving is going to change. Then the operator wages. Okay. So again, it will change depending upon the local laws. Okay. Local laws. At one place, maybe 500 rupees is the minimum wage. In the other place, maybe 200 rupees is the minimum wage. Isn't it? So obviously, it affects the costing. So whereas in the decentralized sector, like maybe some of the Patiala or in Punjab or in some of the clusters in Rajasthan and all, which are very famous for power looms, or even near Hindupur and other areas also, what happens is the kind of power looms they have, okay, apart from the saree manufacturing, the grey fabric manufacturers. So what happens is their operators, helpers, their wage rates are different, so obviously their costing is going to change. We are going to discuss all these things in detail in this class. Okay. Apart from this, the other expenditure also is going to affect the costing of the product, isn't it? Okay. So these are some of the factors which will influence the cost of either weaving or knitting. Okay. So we will take an example for knitting charges. Okay. So we are going to calculate what is the approximate knitting charges. So you take a pen and paper and note down. So a company is being developed a single jersey cotton fabric for the kids wear garments. Okay. So the company sourced 2000 kg of yarn, and the price of yarn is 240 rupees. The price of yarn is 240 rupees. So the knitting industry works with 5 weft knitting machines with a production capacity of 85 kg per machine. 85 kg per machine is the production capacity, and it is having what? 2000 kg of yarn. Okay. Just make a note. 2000 kg of yarn, 240 rupees per kg, and the production capacity is 85 kg per machine, and we have 5 machines. The average waste percentage, so while converting from yarn to knitted fabric, 3% is the waste. So in order to run these 5 machines, we will be having 5 operators and 2 helpers with the wage rate of 250 rupees per shift and 150 rupees per shift. 250 rupees in case of an operator and 150 rupees in case of a helper. Okay. Now, we should calculate the cost of knitting process per kg. by expecting a 20% profit to the company, and which also spends the other over expenditures like overheads like 5,000 rupees per month as a rent, and 3,000 rupees for electricity bill, and 15,000 rupees as other incidental expenses. So considering 26 days working in a month, we need to calculate the cost of the knitting. Okay. So the step 1 is the number of shifts required to complete this order. We know that 85 kg per machine is the productivity, and the average machine production is 85, and the number of machines which are there with us is 5 machines. So that gives 425 kg per shift. That gives 425 kg per shift. But we have 2000 kg of yarn. Okay. So how many shifts are required for us to complete this 2000 kg of yarn is 2000 divided by 425, isn't it? So that leads 4.7 shifts. 4.7 shifts are required in order to convert this 2000 kg of yarn into fabric. Of course, do we get 2000 kg of fabric? Since we have 3% wastage, it will not be done. Let us see. So the wastage percentage is 3%. So 2000 kg, out of that 1% of 2000 kg is like 20 kg, right? So 3% means 60 kg. 60 kg is going to be wastage. So the fabric which we are going to get is 1940 kg. So how much fabric we are going to get? 1940 kg. Isn't it? So this is the fabric we are going to get. In order to convert this 2000 kg of yarn into 1940 kg, per kg, what is the cost which is being involved by these assumptions, like the number of operator wages are 250, helper wages are 150, isn't it? And the productivity is 85 kg per shift. Okay. So that is what we are doing in this example. So the second step is to calculate the labor cost. So the labor cost is equal to the number of labors into the number of shifts worked to complete the order into wages per shift, isn't it? So 5 operators are there, and they are working for 4.7 shifts, and operator wages are 50 rupees per shift, isn't it? Similarly, 2 helpers are there, 2 into 4.7 into 150. So that gives 5,875 plus 1410. So the labor charges is 7,285. The labor charges is 7,285. This is the direct labor. Similarly, the calculation of direct material cost. Since the company is purchasing 2000 kg and each kg is 240 rupees. So the cost of raw material is 4,80,000 rupees. Labor cost is only 7,000 odd. Okay, but the cost of material is 4,80,000, isn't it? So the next step is the calculation of overheads, which are fixed, rent, electricity, and miscellaneous, isn't it? And we have a consideration that per month it is working for 26 days, and each day we consider as one shift only. It is not written, right? Okay. So what happens? The overheads will be 5,000 plus 3,000 plus 15,000. So the total divided by 26 days, that gives 884 rupees 61 paise per day as overheads. 884 rupees 61 paise per day. Since the company works for this, in order to complete this 2000 kg into of yarn into fabric, we will be requiring 4.7 shifts or 4.7 days. Okay. So the total overheads in this case would be 4,157. So 7,000 plus as a labor charge and 4,000 as overheads. Isn't it? Yeah. So the overall cost of the knitting process, if you consider the total knitted fabric cost divided by which is equivalent to material cost, labor cost, and overheads divided by the total production. So 4,80,000 rupees as the raw material cost, 7,285 rupees as the labor cost, and 4,157 rupees as the overheads. So divided by, we are not getting 2000 kg, we are only getting 1940 kg. So the total will be per kg. We are purchasing at only 240 rupees per kg, but the fabric cost is 253 rupees per kg. Understood? So hardly how much it is? 13 rupees only added, isn't it? Yeah. So the knitting cost, if you consider, okay, the knitting cost is labor cost plus overheads divided by total production. Okay. So that would be only 5 rupee 89 paisa per kg. By considering 20% profit for the industry, not means if we are selling the raw material and doing it, then it is different. But we are only seeing the profit on the knitting rate. Okay, so 5 rupee 89 paisa is the base price, base cost, which is involved for us in order to convert yarn to fabric. So 20% profit on that. It gives the knitting charges as 7 rupees per kg. 7 rupees per kg. Sir, but in the earlier slide we have seen 240 as the thing and 253 as the cost. Why? Because the wastage is also there. The 3% of knitting wastage. The yarn is not being converted into the fabric. That need to be properly. If it is taken into account, obviously it is going to be 13 rupees. But the actual cost involved in converting, okay, then it is only the knitting charges 7 rupees. Understood? Again, these are the bare minimum charges and all, so that's why the knitting cost is so less. Obviously, depending upon the type of structure, the productivity, wage rate, number of shifts, okay, and all the other things which will come into between, isn't it? So this 7 rupees is like bare minimum. Okay, this is only for the example purpose. In this class, I will also show you different structures. How much will be the knitting charges? Okay, let us go further. You understood, right? So 240 rupees is the yarn price, and by converting it becomes 253 rupees. But in order to only conversion, it is only 5 rupee 89 paisa. By considering a 20% profit, it is 7 rupees 7 paisa. Yes. So what is knitting rate? Knitting rate is something where we have a knitting industry where the other person will give us yarn and we give them fabric, isn't it? If that is the case, then we will quote the price as knitting rate. The conversion of yarn into fabric, that is referred as knitting rate. Okay. So according to the source which is there in Fashion Flow Apparel Blogspot in 2018, okay. So these are some of the figures. Okay. In US dollars, I have converted into INR by considering 75 rupees a dollar. Okay. Now, in case of a single jersey, okay, solid dyed fabric in case if it is. So that means a grey yarn will be given and which should be just converted into a single jersey fabric. The knitting rate would be how much? 17 cents. That means only 13 rupees per kg. Okay. If you give yarn, I will give convert and give the fabric. Okay. Of course, if you give 100 kg, will I give 100 kg? No. It depending upon how much wastage and all. It generally varies between 3 to 5%. And per kg of yarn, I am going to charge 13 rupees per kg. Isn't it? Is it a good thing or bad thing? Okay. Sir, okay, 13. But in the figure and all, if you, in this table, if you see, highest like 168 rupees also there. What is it? Where is 13 rupees and where is 168 rupees? Okay, it is almost 15 times higher. What is it? Let us see. Yeah. Single jersey, solid dyed, 13 rupees. Single jersey with, if you are adding 5% to 10% elastane and all, where if it is a solid dyed, okay, means single color. Then what happens? It is coming to 47 to 50 rupees per kg. Okay, the knitting charges is 50 rupees per kg. Why? Because the kind of machinery which requires for conversion of yarn to knitted fabric in this case, it requires additional feeding mechanisms and all where this lycra or spandex need to be fed into that, isn't it? In that case, what will happen? Obviously, it requires special imported machines where the normal domestic machines will not be there. And these machines are expensive in nature, and obviously by considering the depreciation of these machines, the cost of knitting is going to be higher as like 50 rupees per kg. Okay. Sir, what happens if it is not a single color, if it is a multicolor? Okay, then the third one like single jersey with 5 to 10% elastane, yarn dyed, feeder stripe. Okay, so in the second example it is only plain. The third one is feeder stripe. That means we need to change the feeding color, means the feeding colors, the cones which are there, those are not with a single color. These are with a multiple color. Okay, you might have seen many of the t-shirt, maybe 1 inch blue, 1 inch white, 1 inch blue, 1 inch white, something like that. These are referred as feeder stripe. So when the knitted fabric stripes are considered, there are two types of mechanisms. One is feeder striper and another one is auto striper. Feeder striper and auto striper. Feeder striper is nothing but by changing the feeding cones, if you are able to get the desired repeat of the stripes, it is referred as a feeder striper. Okay, but in terms of the auto striper, it is as like a jacquard or derby, whereas for each what you call course, you will be having a different color. Okay, you have the feasibility or possibility. Okay, without means it will be there, but it will be color changing wherever as per the pattern which you give. Sometimes you will observe the entire t-shirt will be of white color, only at the chest 1 inch blue strip will be there. It is not possible in a feeder striper. It is not possible in a feeder striper. In that case, the auto striper comes into the picture. The fourth one is like the single jersey with 5 to 10% elastane, yarn dyed, engineered stripe, or it is also referred as auto striper. It is. In this case, now what happens? The knitting charges are as high as 176 rupees, isn't it? Just for converting. Okay. So in case of engineered stripe or auto striper, the cost is very high. Okay. But whereas if it is feeder striper, okay, it is less. In case if it is very like solid dyed itself, okay, single color is involved, then the knitting charges are very low. So that is the reason in many of the cases, what happens? The knitters will source the raw or grey yarn and convert into knitted fabric. Then the fabric will be piece dyed. Okay. Or if they want specialization or value addition and all, it is better they will go with what you call like some sort of print, embroidery or something like that. Okay. Understood? Yeah. So in case of a solid dyed fabric, the knitting charges are very low. In case of feeder striper, these are higher, but 50 rupees and all. In case of engineered or auto striper, it is very expensive. Okay, if you want elastane, obviously the cost will be there. Okay. But if there is no elastane, single jersey, yarn dyed and feeder striper, no elastane, only 37 rupees per kg. Understood? I hope you are understood how the pattern it is. Okay. In case if it is a solid, single mercerized and solid dyed yarn, okay, then 14 rupees per kg. But in case of engineered stripe, the cost of knitting is very higher. Why? Because very few people will be using and those machines will be sometimes idle and we need to get the depreciation of the machines and the cost involved in purchasing these machines also will be higher. The machine manufacturer need to get it. Again, this is an example, an indication. The actual prices may vary. Understood? So once you become managers and all, when you are becoming a merchandiser, no, our Jagadish sir told that it is only 14 rupees. You give me at 14 rupees. Maybe at the time prices may be higher and they may be charging 20 or 25 rupees per kg. Understood? These will volatile, these will change depending upon the supply and demand. Okay. So this is for your understanding purpose. Understood? Yes, again, these are not especially from one of the location, it is from various locations and all. From mill to mill also it is going to change. But it will indicate some of the, for you to understand, okay, what factors will affect the cost of the fabric. Yes? Similarly, if you see, the single jersey we have seen. Similarly, if you want a piqué structure for polo dyed t-shirts and all, polo shirts with collar and all, it will come, right? As like the one which is there in the figure. Okay. So in this case, under what happens in case of solid dyed, earlier we have seen 16 rupees, now it is 23 rupees. Similarly, in the same case, here also, if it is changing from piqué structure, then within this also single mercerized and double mercerized, or whether it is a solid dyed, whether it is a engineered stripe, whether it requires elastane or not, accordingly, what is happening? The cost is going to be changed. Similarly, for rib also, it is going to be changed. Okay. And then other structures like interlock. Okay. So single jersey is cheaper than rib and PK. Then interlock is more expensive. Why? Because two beds are required and the kind of bed and all which is required for interlock machines is entirely different. Okay. So interlock machines, similarly the fleece fabrics. Fleece fabrics means as like velvet fabrics. The knitted structures also will come. You see here, it comes to around 40 to 50 rupees for making it. Okay. So, sir, in case of single jersey Milan yarn, so that also same thing, right? Already it is finished and processed. So what happens? The smooth working will take place. That is only 12 rupees Milan wash only. Isn't it? Single jersey. In case of PK structure, it is 23. In case of rib also, it is 23. Means 30 cents. Yeah. I hope you understood the structure at this moment related to the cost. So what is happening? One is structure, whether it is a single jersey fabric or rib fabric or PK fabric or interlock fabric, accordingly the cost is going to change. Whether it is 100% cotton or whether there is any mix of elastane. Okay, why? Because why elastane we are giving more specifically? Since elastane is more extensible fiber and many of the sportswear and intimate apparels we require additional stretch. Okay, so nowadays it is very popular to get on with elastane. Almost many of the t-shirts are nowadays, even jeans also are coming with elastane. Elastane, spandex are nothing but the same. Elastane is the chemical name and lycra is nothing but lycra and spandex are the trade names. Okay, understood. So you understood, right? The knitting rates will vary between 16 rupees to 175 rupees also, depending upon the what kind of requirement we have. And engineered stripe or auto striper are very expensive. Yes. So what we understood in this class? So we understood the method of calculation knitting cost. We need to consider the raw material cost, the labor cost and overheads, and accordingly based on the cost other overheads which are being kept, and all these things we need to consider, and per kg calculation we can do. Okay. So whatever the first example 5 rupee plus which is there is the bare minimum. Okay, just for example we have taken. Why? Because 150 rupees per helper, nobody is ready to work. Okay, now those days are gone. Nowadays what happens, just for example saying that numerical is happening like that. But whatever these things we have seen, the data which we discussed is 2018 only. So more or less it is same as on what is there in the outside today. Okay. So the general knitting rates we discussed. So the knitting rate is basically depending upon the structure, whether it requires elastane or not, whether it is a grey fabric or single color or multiple colors are there or not. Okay, if it is there, whether it is a feeder striper or auto striper. Okay, so these are these four factors. Okay, one is what? The structure, single jersey, double jersey, that may be rib, interlock, pick or fleece. Okay, this is the structure. Okay, first one. The second one is whether it is having elastane mix or not. Elastane mix or not. Third one is whether it is a single color or multiple color. Okay, and the fourth one is whether it is a feeder striper or auto striper. So based on these four factors, the knitting rates are going to change abnormally. Okay, 16 rupees to 170 rupees, isn't it? So I hope we have learned something new today, and thank you very much for your patient listening. So if you have any doubts, keep asking me so that we will have a collaborative learning. And this knitting is knitting cost is one of the very important topic for you to understand if you are in the apparel or textile business. Okay. So thank you very much. Thank you for patiently listening.